For years, Ben Napier was known as the big, cheerful presence at the center of hometown, the craftsman with the easy smile, the larger-than-life personality, and a genuine love for his community. Alongside his wife, Erin, he helped turn old houses in Laurel, Mississippi, into warm, meaningful homes while bringing a sense of pride back to the town they loved. So when viewers began noticing that Ben sometimes seemed less active on screen, questions naturally followed. Was he dealing with a health problem? Had the pressures of television changed his life? And what about the controversy that briefly placed his name near one of Mississippi's biggest scandals? The truth is far less mysterious than the rumors suggested. Ben's journey has involved public scrutiny, a painful shoulder injury, major family milestones, and increasingly ambitious projects. Through all of it, one thing has remained consistent: his commitment to his family, his community, and the work that made Hometown such a beloved show. When Hometown first arrived on HGTV, there was no guarantee it would become the phenomenon it eventually became. Unlike renovation programs built around extravagant transformations and dramatic competition, Hometown offered something quieter. The series focused on Laurel, Mississippi, a small community filled with historic houses, old neighborhoods, and stories that deserved another chapter. Ben and Erin weren't simply renovating buildings. They were helping homeowners reconnect with the places where they wanted to build their lives. That was a major part of the show's appeal. Every renovation had a personal story behind it. A worn porch could represent decades of family memories. An outdated kitchen could become the setting for future holidays and birthday celebrations. A neglected house could become a home again. Ben and Erin complemented each other perfectly. Ben brought his woodworking skills, construction knowledge, humor, and unmistakable physical presence. Erin brought her artistic vision, design instincts, and attention to personal details. Together, they created spaces that felt lived in rather than manufactured. Laurel itself became another character in the series. Instead of treating a small town as a limitation, the Napiers made its history and identity part of the story. That approach resonated with viewers. People weren't simply watching two television personalities renovate houses. They were watching neighbors help neighbors. They were seeing communities valued instead of overlooked. But as Hometown became more successful, the demand surrounding it grew as well. More filming meant more schedules, more travel, more projects, and more expectations. Behind the relaxed atmosphere viewers saw on television was a demanding production that required an enormous amount of work. And eventually, Ben's personal challenges became impossible to ignore. In 2022, Mississippi was shaken by a massive welfare fund scandal involving allegations surrounding tens of millions of dollars intended to help vulnerable residents. The investigation became a major national story and involved numerous prominent figures. As documents and communications connected to the scandal became public, people began examining the names mentioned in them. Ben Napier's name appeared in material connected to the wider story, which led some people online to assume that he must have been involved. That conclusion, however, went far beyond what the available information established. Being mentioned in documents does not automatically mean someone participated in wrongdoing. In Ben's case, the transcript describes his connection as peripheral and related to community activities rather than fraudulent conduct. He was not one of the defendants charged in the welfare case. That distinction is important. Internet speculation can move incredibly quickly, especially when a beloved public figure's name suddenly appears alongside a controversial story. Fans who knew Ben primarily as the friendly craftsman from Hometown understandably wondered whether there was something they had never known about him. But a name appearing in a document is not the same thing as evidence of criminal involvement. Ultimately, the controversy did not become the hidden scandal that some online speculation suggested. Ben continued working, appearing on Hometown, and building projects with Erin. Yet another challenge was already developing, one that was much more personal. For longtime viewers, Ben's physical presence has always been part of his identity on Hometown. He is the person carrying lumber, swinging tools, building furniture, moving heavy materials, and getting involved in the hands-on side of renovations. That made his shoulder problems particularly difficult. Over time, Ben experienced significant pain connected to a shoulder injury and bone spur. What might have started as an irritation became increasingly difficult to ignore. Fans began noticing changes in the way he moved during episodes. Sometimes he appeared less physically involved. At other times, Erin or members of the team handled tasks that viewers might normally have expected Ben to take on. For people who had watched him for years, the difference was noticeable. Naturally, speculation followed. Some viewers wondered whether he was simply exhausted. Others feared something more serious. The reality was that Ben was dealing with a genuine physical problem. In March 2023, he underwent shoulder surgery. The procedure involved repairing damage and addressing the underlying problems affecting the joint, including the bone spur and damaged tissue. For someone whose career depends heavily on physical work, recovery presented an obvious challenge. Ben had to slow down. That may sound simple, but for someone accustomed to constantly building, lifting, fixing, and creating, being forced to sit back can be emotionally difficult. Recovery required time, patience, and physical therapy. A sling became part of his daily routine, and activities that once seemed effortless suddenly required caution. There was also the frustration of not being able to contribute physically in the way he wanted. Ben has often presented himself as a hands-on person. He likes making things. He likes working with his tools. He likes solving problems with his own hands. An injury that limits those abilities can affect far more than physical strength. It can challenge a person's sense of independence. And then there was his role as a father. One especially meaningful example involved Ben's brother Jesse and Jesse's wife, Lauren. Ben and Erin helped renovate their home in Laurel, turning it into a welcoming space for a growing family. The timing made the project even more special because both families were experiencing major changes. Jesse and Lauren were preparing to welcome their first child, while Ben and Erin were also expecting another child. The cousins would grow up close in age, creating another connection between the two families. The renovation reflected that sense of family. The house wasn't simply designed to look good on television. It was created as a place where children could grow, relatives could gather, meals could be shared, and memories could accumulate. But homes, like people, change. By 2025, Jesse and Lauren had decided that it was time to move to a larger property with more land. They wanted additional outdoor space, room for a garden, and an environment where their children could explore. That meant selling the house Ben and Erin had helped create. For an ordinary homeowner, selling a beloved house can already be emotional. For the Napiers, this particular property represented years of family history. Christmases had happened there. Family dinners had happened there. Children had played there. Conversations had unfolded over countless cups of coffee. The house had become part of the family story. That is why the decision to sell carried such a bittersweet feeling. The point of a home is not necessarily that it lasts forever. Sometimes its purpose is to hold people through one chapter before they move into another. And that idea captures much of what Hometown has always been about. A house is more than walls and furniture. It is the place where life happens. If renovating individual homes was ambitious, the Napiers' work on Hometown Takeover raised the stakes considerably. The concept expanded their mission from helping individual homeowners to helping entire communities. Sebring, Florida, became the focus of a major transformation. The community faced challenges including aging properties, economic difficulties, and damage caused by severe storms. Instead of treating the town as simply another television backdrop, the project approached revitalization on a much larger scale. Homes were renovated. Historic spaces received attention. Businesses were given assistance. Public areas were improved. The work included projects designed to help local leaders and organizations, while businesses such as a soda shop, theater, and Cuban cafe were included in the broader revitalization effort. This kind of project requires something completely different from renovating one house. A home has a homeowner who can make decisions. A town has hundreds or thousands of voices. There are different histories, different needs, different expectations, and different opinions about what should happen next. That made leadership one of the most important parts of the project. Ben's role was no longer simply about swinging a hammer. It was about coordinating people, solving problems, motivating a team, and understanding that physical renovation is only one piece of rebuilding a community. The larger goal was to create momentum. When residents see neglected buildings transformed, businesses supported, and public spaces restored, it can change the way they view their own community. That is a philosophy behind Napier's approach. Restoration is not simply about making something look better. It is about reminding people that something still has value. After years on television, Hometown has become much bigger than the modest renovation series it once was. Its popularity is not difficult to understand. Ben and Erin do not present themselves as distant celebrities who have arrived to rescue a community. They are deeply connected to Laurel and repeatedly emphasize the importance of preserving what makes a place unique. Their chemistry is another major reason viewers continue to watch. Ben's humor balances Erin's creativity. Their relationship feels comfortable and familiar, which gives the show an atmosphere that is difficult to manufacture. Then there are the stories. A renovation might involve a young family buying its first home. Another might involve someone returning to their hometown. Another could preserve a building connected to local history. The project becomes emotional because the people matter more than the materials. That philosophy was especially clear when Ben and Erin worked on places connected to their own past, including projects involving their alma mater and the old President's house at Jones College, where their own story began. Those episodes show that restoration can be deeply personal. The past does not have to be discarded simply because something is old. Sometimes it needs to be understood, repaired, and given another chance. After all the rumors, speculation, and questions, the answer is surprisingly straightforward. Ben Napier did not disappear because of some mysterious scandal. His name was mentioned in connection with a much larger Mississippi welfare scandal, but that did not make him a defendant or establish that he participated in the alleged fraud. He also experienced a serious shoulder problem that eventually required surgery and a difficult recovery. At the same time, his professional life continued expanding. Instead of stepping away from the work that made him famous, Ben and Erin took on increasingly ambitious projects and continued building their television legacy. And perhaps that is the most important part of the story. Ben's journey is not really about a shocking secret. It is about what happens when a person who appears strong all the time discovers that strength has limits. It is about learning to accept help. It is about recovering when your body forces you to slow down. It is about understanding that a home can be sold without the memories inside it disappearing. And it is about recognizing that restoring a community requires more than construction skills. It requires patience, empathy, and a willingness to believe that damaged things can still have a future. For millions of hometown viewers, Ben remains the same person they welcomed into their living rooms years ago, a craftsman, husband, father, and community-minded builder who has experienced setbacks but continued moving forward. The biggest lesson may be that appearances can be misleading. A person can smile on television while dealing with pain behind the scenes. A name can appear in a scandal document without making someone part of the crime.